Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thanks for joining us. It is February the 22nd, 2025. We are live here at WCCO, downtown Minneapolis, for the Minnesota Real Estate Show every Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. This show is hosted by Mike Overson of Luminate Bank and Scott Wohlmering and myself, Ryan O'Neill of the Minnesota Real Estate Team. RE/MAX Advantage Plus, interactive show. We always love hearing from you. Scott, good morning to you there, buddy.
Yeah, good to be here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We're about to jump on air here, but 612-294-6949 if you want to go live on air. And obviously you can just put in your questions on the feed and we will answer them as they come in.
Yeah, appreciate you all joining us. I hope the weekend's going well. And we're getting ready to go live on air again. WCCO, welcome your questions, comments, thoughts. As always, don't hesitate to interrupt us. I got a lot to talk about today with the current market conditions, and everything that's going on right now in the Twin Cities, real estate, mortgage, etc. So here we go, everybody. Thanks again for joining. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thanks for joining us, and hope your weekend is starting off well. It's Saturday the 22nd, February the 22nd. We are live here every Saturday morning for the Minnesota Real Estate Show down at WCCO here in Minneapolis. It's hosted by Mike Overson. He's with Luminate Bank here in the Twin Cities, and Scott Wohlmering and myself, Ryan O'Neill, with the Minnesota Real Estate Team and RE/MAX Advantage Plus. This is an interactive show as well. You can reach out at any point. 612-294-6949 is how you can reach us by phone or text. 612-294-6949 again is how you can reach us at any point by phone or text. Interrupt us with questions, comments, thoughts. Scott, good morning. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to be here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Like Ryan said, this is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. We have been here on air for about 20 years. WCCO for what, a couple of years now?
Yeah, it's been like 3 years.
Has it really been 3 years?
Yeah.
Wow. And thanks for tuning in. We're here every Saturday. We cover everything real estate and mortgage related as it relates to the Twin Cities market. At the beginning of the show, we're going to go through a couple updates. If you've never checked out our website, it's mnrealestateshow.com. You can find out everything you need to know about the team there, how we work, and then all of our great preferred partners. Mike's going to be on as one of our main partners with Luminate Bank, but from attorneys to contractors to anything you need household-wise, they're the best of the best. Make sure you check them out.
Yeah, again, 612-294-6949 is how you can join us. Our goal every Saturday is to bring you some great information, whether you are looking to buy or sell, or frankly, just interested in the market, and have a little fun in the process. Scott, we might as well dive in to the weekly market numbers here in the Twin Cities. New listings, new homes for sale, down 8% year over year. There were 1,006 new properties that came on the market. Pending sales or accepted purchase agreements also down 8%. 695 homes for sale, 695 accepted purchase agreements. And then the overall inventory is very similar to last year at this time. It's down just slightly, 6,852 homes. And Scott, the median sales price is up 5% year over year, 370,000. Before the show, we were just looking at the graph that shows like over a 20-year period, the historical inventory levels from 2005 to 2025. And we're at about the lowest point in that 20-year period.
Oh yeah. Well, and we both lived through the highest point. We were talking, so when you look back, I believe it was 2008-ish, the end of 2007, 2008, right around there, where we were almost at 37,000 homes on the market. And now we're at 6,800. Let that sink in. The difference then was you would list a home and you get one showing in 4 months, and you were thrilled about that showing.
Yeah.
And now, agents that are newer, the team will call and they'll be like, "Hey, my house has been on the market for like 5 days. We've only had 8 showings. What's going on?" And I'm just like, "My goodness, this is just getting back to a little normalcy."
Yeah, it was. Every market has challenges, and that was probably again one of the most challenging because again, Scott, I know at the time you and your team carried just a large number of listings, and
106 listings. I remembered 106 listings in July of 2006, and 8 sold.
wow.
So a home that you valued at 500 in 90 days was really 325. I mean, that's how quickly it just went from 18,000 homes in the market to 30,000 homes in the market, and everything just stopped.
Yeah. And now again, in our current market with that 6,000 number, 6,800 number, what does that mean? It means that there is a shortage of inventory. There are buyers out there. Let's maybe talk about interest rate wise. I know Mike's going to be talking about this as well. The headlines are basically the lowest 30-year rate since December, and good timing, Mike. It's like on cue. You're in on that. Interest rates, some bad economic news this week, and so interest rates got a lot better. It looked like.
I mean, I suppose a lot. I wouldn't describe it as a lot, but did they get better? Yeah, they got better. And it's just kind of what we've spoken about. I think it's just going to be this slow drift downwards, right? It's never a straight line, but we got the slow drift downwards in interest rates. We're going to hopefully see low 6s here, maybe by April or May, which is going to just spark things even more. We've already seen the activity pick up this spring. As it gets warmer, as rates trickle down a little bit more, it's going to be busy.
Yeah, folks, just make no mistake about it. So, we were just at 7%, and in this last week, here are some sales, and what happened? 1,175,000 sold in 4 days and multiple offers. 1,000,003 sold in 2 days. These are members on the team that have had some good sales. Sold in 2 days at multiple offers. And you think about it, in that price range, there's that kind of pressure. There's nothing out there, guys. So what's happened is buyers are kind of accumulating. They see one house, they're in the million range. Now you've added a few more buyers. There's no houses. Now another one that goes in the market at 1,000,002. So all those 6 buyers go out and look at it. Nope, they didn't buy that one. They didn't like it, maybe for whatever reasons. But those buyers just get more and more in a little group in the area you're in. That's what's happening.
Hey, Mike, Luminate Bank. That's some exciting news. Share with everybody.
Yeah, so Luminate Bank now. So previous to last weekend, Luminate Home Loans and Luminate Bank were technically separate entities. Now we're all underneath one roof. We're just known as Luminate Bank. So Luminate Home Loans, that entity doesn't exist. Oh, we're all known as Luminate Bank now. So what does that do for us? For example, I was licensed in 43 states before the change to Luminate Bank. Now I'm in 49 states. So it's more back end stuff like that where we have more services and things like that we can provide to our customers. Contact information is the same, address is the same, phone number is the same, all that stuff is the same. We just now have more products and more ability to help our customers.
Yeah, again, 612-294-6949 is how you can join us at the Minnesota Real Estate Show. We got a lot to cover today. Got just some interesting numbers again with that real estate market. Mike, maybe before the break, I did have one thought. So when I look at interest rates, how do people know what the interest rates are? Like I just Googled it and said, what are the current interest rates? And it'll pop up and it says, according to Zillow, it's 6.5%. And then the next article was Yahoo, and it said, according to such and such. How do people really know?
Well,
besides calling you.
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to really know? I mean, you can always Google, you can always look online. That's going to get you close, right? But you gotta know too, when you look online, that's like you see that interest rate of 6.625 today. In the fine print, it says you need a 780 credit score. You need 25% down. The loan amount has to be this much. It's got all these caveats, right, that you got to meet before you get that type of rate. What happens if you're buying an investment property? Those rates that you see online don't apply to you because no one posts investment property rates online. It's all primary residence rates online. What if you're doing a DSCR loan where you're qualifying based on the income and expenses of the property versus your own credit and your own income? Those interest rates are different. So Rates can range anywhere. I've looked at, the last 30 days of I've locked, right? I've locked everyone between a 5.99 and an 8.5%.
Wow.
And everyone's situation is different, right? Everyone's credit score is different. How they qualify is different. And so how do you really know? You gotta reach out to a loan officer that you know and trust and figure out which program is the best for you, and boom, they'll let you know what that type of rate is.
Hey, 612-294-6949 is how you can join us by phone and text. We hope you're having a great weekend here. Again, this is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for the nice comments. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. Mike, good to see you. Mike's got his Quest cookie with him. Every time I walk by those in the grocery store, I think of you there, young man.
So good. They're so good. Highly recommend
2
them.
grams of carbs.
Yeah. So what's the deal? Those are, and is it 2 hours you eat, or every 2.5, or?
I mean, it kind of goes here and there, but I mean, I do breakfast whenever, I do breakfast when I wake up, and then I do a morning snack, and then I do lunch, and then I do an afternoon snack, then I do dinner, then I do my nighttime snack.
So here's a thought for you. They do say, because I never used to eat first thing in the morning, and they say that's one of the worst things that you can do, to not eat in the morning. And I found that I felt a lot better when I eat even just a little something
bit.
and drink water.
Yeah,
I'll have a big glass of water.
Literally a half a banana and a little grain toast gives you enough energy to get rolling. It gets your metabolism rolling.
Yeah.
The first thing when people will call and they'll say, I'm having a problem. I can't lose weight. I can't do this. I say, you're not eating enough.
Yeah.
And people are like, what? I'm like, you're not eating enough. That's what everybody does. They starve themselves, and then your body freaks out because it's starving. You gotta get your metabolism cranking up.
Yeah.
You don't want your body to be efficient. When you pull back on calories, your body starts to learn, it's like, I got to be efficient with the calories that I have because I'm not getting enough.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you consistently give it enough, your body's like, I can burn all day long because I know it's going to be there
That's
when
right.
I need it. So yeah, eat often, don't skip meals.
Yeah, but it is crazy. People will be like, what are you talking about? You're not eating enough. And they'll show me you're just not eating enough.
Yeah, Mr. Mike, I am excited about, again, with Luminate Bank. I can't stress enough, especially fellow agents that are watching or listening. We've had a few deals recently that have fallen apart. Either we were on the listing side or the buying side, and it was kind of a random, no-name lender, and it really matters. The money doesn't always show up.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
That's the thing. It's just because you have a pre-approval letter and you're supposed to close doesn't mean the world's going to revolve perfectly and the money will show up. Oftentimes it doesn't, and that's a sad day for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And we can all name those lenders. Some of them are very big names that you would know, that every time you get a purchase agreement, you're like, okay, well, that's got about an 80% chance of closing on time.
Right.
Yeah, not good.
Mike, any thoughts on that?
I describe it as kind of like professional athletes. Just because you play in the NBA doesn't mean you're good.
Yeah.
You're good enough to get in the game, right? But there's a difference there's a reason why LeBron James makes how many millions of dollars per year, and the guy at the end of the bench makes about 250.
Yeah.
So come on, Mike. Well, okay, here we go. We're going back live on air. Hey, top of the morning to you. Hope the day's starting off well. You're able to get outside, do something a little bit fun. I do have to laugh as Minnesotans thinking about this week. We're going to get into the 40s here coming up soon. And isn't it funny with life, how everything's just a little bit perspective? You think about if we'd had the 40s in like April, May, June, it's like the end of the world.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, it's 40. And on Sunday or Monday, we are going to see some convertibles of people driving in their just loving life. It's 40.
Yes, absolutely.
We're going to see David Meyer out there on his BMW motorcycle because it's going to be 44 degrees and sunny, and he's going to be out there on that thing.
Yep. It was funny at the break. We were talking about, not all lenders or all loan officers not being equal. And that, depending on who you're with, a lot of times the closing doesn't happen and the money doesn't show up and whatever. We were just talking about different industries. And I always think about somewhere out there is the worst doctor. Right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, because if you've got the best doctor in your field, somebody is the worst.
Yeah.
The worst doctor.
There's the worst doctor and there's the best doctor.
And what do you mean?
Well, I mean, there has to be, if you have the best at something. thing, then you have the worst at somebody. So 1,000 doctors that are heart surgeons, one of them is the best, and the other one's kind of where they talk in the copy. I'm sure he's glad he's not doing my heart.
Right.
Hey, we've had a lot of phone lines ringing here, and you are welcome to join us. Don't be bashful calling. I promise I'll make sure Mike and Scott are nice to you on air. No, just 612-294-6949 is how you can reach us. Questions, comments, thoughts. Mike, again, and Scott, with that limited inventory, we're starting to see a few more things happen. Scott, this week, it was really kind of cool. You shared a really nice tool for agents on the Minnesota real estate team that's simple, basic, but in multiple offer situations. Maybe share with people what that was.
Yeah, I've been using it since about 2022, and the reason I put it in place, we do this every day, so we know in a multiple offer situation, if there's 3 offers, 5 offers, 10 offers, we know what it's going to take for that buyer to be able to get the house. Problem is the buyer doesn't do that every day, and so I came up with a scorecard. It's real easy. So if you are, I'll simplify it. If you are a cash offer, you're going to get 5 points. If you're 20% down, you're going to get 4 points. Conventional. If you're 10% conventional, you get 3. If you're 5% down, you're going to get 2 points. And FHA and VA would get 1 point. Now, that doesn't mean that FHA and VA are bad loans. They're great loans, but they're competing against 10 other offers. So they go to the lowest of the pile. So then you get into inspections. Do I have one? If you have a full inspection, that's only 1 point. If you ease up on your time frame or what you're going to ask for to eventually getting to no inspection, which would be 5 points.
Yeah.
So it's just what it helps buyers be able to do is look at, okay, I've been through this twice. Okay, I only have a 40% chance of getting this offer. That's right. Well, what if I increase my earnest money? Well, now you'd be at a 50% chance of getting this one. Well, what if I didn't have a home inspection? Well, now you're at 84%. So then the buyer starts to understand what they have to do, and it gets a little less personalized. Like, I keep losing. Why don't they take my? Well, they can look and see, I don't really have a good chance at getting this, or I have a really good chance of getting this.
Yeah, it is very, very helpful. And I know sometimes that may be hard to hear. For example, if you are an FHA buyer or a VA, we love our vets. We work with a ton of veterans, both on the selling side and the buying side. And I think what Scott just explained, when you, for example, are an FHA buyer, there is another provision, Mike, from a loan standpoint. So maybe explain that with people. If I get an FHA offer, why, as the seller, that is not always a real winner in a multiple offer.
Yep, and the FHA loans and VA loans work similar on the appraisal side of things, and that's typically the thing that comes up. And there's 2 things with the appraisal on FHAs and VAs that come up. Number 1 is property condition. FHA and VA appraisals typically require the property to be in a little bit better condition. So if you have chipping or peeling paint somewhere in the property, FHA and VA is probably going to call for that paint to be scraped and repainted. So you got a repair to make. On the conventional side of things, they'd probably let it slide, right? So missing hand railings on staircases, conventional loan will let that slide. FHA and VA is going to say, look, you got to get a hand railing on that staircase before we can go to closing. So it's repair stuff like that they call out a little bit more. And then the second thing is that when an FHA appraisal is done in a house or a VA appraisal, that appraisal will stick to that house for a certain period of time. So, for example, FHA buyer offers $300,000 on a house, gets the appraisal done. The appraisal comes back at $285,000. Okay, we're at $285,000. Let's say that deal falls apart, right? So that buyer and seller can't bridge the gap of the $15,000, and they just decide to cancel it, and the house goes back on the market. Any FHA buyers now that come to that house over the next 6 months have to use that $285,000 appraisal that's on the house, right? So the sellers kind of can somewhat back themselves into a corner of how much I can sell my house for, because we got this FHA appraisal from FHA buyer number 1, and it came in at $285,000. Any other FHA buyers that come to the door, I know I have to deal with this $285,000 appraisal.
That's right.
What's the argument though, Mike? I'm listening to that and I say, well, if it appraised for $285,000, it's worth $285,000.
No.
What do you mean?
You go ahead.
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
So okay, so you look at a house, right? The county says, we think your house is worth this, and this is what we're going to tax it on, right? That's their opinion of that value. An appraiser goes to the house and says, yeah, based on my research and my math that I do, I think the house is worth this. A seller has a house and they're like, you know what? I think my house is worth this. A buyer might come to the door and say, I think your house is worth that. Right? So
Well, and the problem is the market value of a home, what I can sell it for as a real estate agent, I know what the pressure of the market is going to drive. And so to me, these are obscure numbers that I know are going to be here based on knowledge and whatever else. An appraiser is 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4, and they just put everything into a spreadsheet and they say, okay, this is what it spits out. Where I look at, okay, this has 4 bedrooms upstairs instead of 3 bedrooms upstairs. They might give it a value of 5. I might give it a value of 15 because they want 4 bedrooms up. I won't go into all of it. So I have had 3 or 4 low appraisals in the last 5 years. And each one of them, the number that they appraised it at, I couldn't even sell it at if I tried. You know, if I sold it at that number, I'd have 50 offers on it. I mean, you couldn't sell it that low, even if I wanted to sell it that low.
So it's not a perfect science.
No.
The appraiser is someone that's using their tools, their analysis to determine that. But Mike, if it's a conventional loan, the buyer can get another appraisal, right? FHA or VA, you can't.
So if you're working with lender number 1 and you're a conventional buyer and that lender orders the appraisal and that appraisal comes in underneath the purchase price, can you just be like, I don't like that value on that appraisal, let's order another one?
No.
You can't just do that, right? You would either have to prove that there was some sort of hard facts as to why that appraisal is no good. They got the wrong square footage. They got the wrong bedroom count. You know what I mean? It's like all this stuff is wrong. Like this appraiser just must have messed up house, the first house you looked at that day and the second house you looked at that day. So if you can prove that, then you can, yes, get a second appraisal done. Otherwise, a lot of times you can't just get a second appraisal because you didn't like the value that came back on it, right? Sometimes you might have to switch lenders in order to get have the ability to order another appraisal.
Well, and it's like everything else, and I know we're up against the next break here, but appraisers are individual humans that have egos and everything else. And so when they go out and they determine a value, by gosh, that's the value. I've got one right now that the appraiser has called me 3 times over this last week. He's not digging in. He's actually unclear about the values of lakes over in our area. This is one I sold on a lake. So he's not just doing an appraisal and then disappearing. He's saying, hey, I'm having a problem with these values here. Tell me the difference between this lake and this lake a quarter mile away. And how come you sold one over here that was bigger and this one's smaller, but you sold it for more? And so he's listening and he's learning from it. He's going to do a decent appraisal. Other appraisals will just stick a number on it.
That's a good appraiser right there. If you got an appraiser going to those lengths to try to justify that value, that's an ace appraiser, right?
Yeah.
That's one you want to have on your side.
Hey, before the break, want to feature a listing. Justin Voss, a great agent on the Minnesota real estate team and RE/MAX Advantage Plus, has one in Fairhaven. It's 4762 Bridgewater Road for $175,000. And Justin said it's a great property for some sweat equity. It's a handyman special. It is a 4-bed, 3-bath, and it's a split level. Both floors, he said, are handicap accessible. It's got new LVT flooring, hickory kitchen cabinets, a new septic system in 2022, and there's many lakes close by for water sports, fishing, and fun. Again, 4-bed, 3-bath. It's 4762 Bridgewater Road in Fairhaven for $175,000. Be sure to check that one out online as well. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the comments, questions. We're going to talk on air too a little bit. Had a question about contract for deeds, pros and cons for contract for deeds. But Mike, low appraisals, how many low appraisals have you seen in the last 6 months to a year, would you say?
Not many.
Or percentage wise?
Percentage? I mean, it's low. It's super low. Probably 2% maybe.
Wow.
2 out of 100.
Well, I've been doing this for 25 years and I've had less than 5
Yeah.
So
personally.
Yeah.
I'm working on one right now. I just had one come in now. 505 purchase price came in at 490. And here's the thing that, and I spoke to the appraiser about this too. This neighborhood is a tight box neighborhood. It's in St. Paul, but it borders Maplewood, I believe what it is on the one side. And I think on the other side, it's a different. So it's kind of in the corner there, right? And it's like, you gotta use St. Paul comps in the St. Paul school district. Cause as soon as you cross this line,
Yeah.
now you're Maplewood. It's a different market. right? And as soon as you cross this line to the north, again, it's a different school district. You're in a different market. So we got a tight neighborhood here. There's not many comps that have sold in that little neighborhood. He's like, and so I did the best I could with these values. And he was actually willing to speak to the agents as well. So the agents actually ended up calling him and he explained the same thing. He's like, look, that exact same house 2 blocks away in the Maplewood School District, it's worth 25 grand more.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
hard.
it's all over Minneapolis. When we did all those sales in Minneapolis a few years ago, it's the same way. You could have a 1,600 square foot, 1.5 story on this block, and a block away, it could be a swing of 200 grand because it put you into a different school, specific school.
Yeah.
Put you into a different, neighborhood. But it was crazy. I mean, you could have huge numbers on the exact same house, 1 block to 2 blocks away. You don't find that in the suburbs.
Yeah. He said the biggest discrepancy he's seen is like Wayzata versus Hopkins.
Yeah.
They're right next to each other. He's like, people will pay way more, 50, 100 grand more for the exact same house that they can be the Wayzata school district.
Yeah.
So it is. You think about that as homeowners, where you're at. And again, sometimes when you maybe buy a property, hopefully your agent helps you understand that. But I could think of, again, when I first bought a property in 2001, it's a busy road. It's a really busy road. And so that's affected value over time. I loved living there, but I wish they had told me a little bit more, avoid the busy road. I was a young person. I'm like, hey, this is fun. This is a great property. So you think about busy roads, school districts, some of the different amenities. We're going back live here. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hey, welcome back to the second act here at the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Hope your weekend's going well, everybody. It's starting to thaw a little bit in the Twin Cities, and we appreciate you joining us. We've had some questions come in we're going to get to just in a second. Before I do, though, David Myers got a nice one. 3318 Park Avenue South. This is for sale. It's $325,000. It was fully updated in 2013. It's got the granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, gleaming hardwood floors, 2 updated bathrooms. Scott, the roof is less than a year old. Got new siding and windows in 2013, 3-season porch. And David said the backyard's great for entertaining, extending your living space with a privacy fence and a professionally done paver stone patio, large 2+ garage, extra parking slip for your toys or third driver. And it's got a 14x16 storage shed, super convenient as well. It is tastefully remodeled. David says, open house today. He's going to be there 1 to 3. Again, 3318 Park Avenue. If you Google that, you'll see the great pictures. $325,000 for that one, Scott.
Very nice. I've got a new one coming on this week. Excited to talk about this one. I've actually kind of alluded to it over the last few weeks. Super cool 2-story on 24741 Southern Oak Circle in Lakeville. 2.5 acres. It is about 5,000 square feet, 5-bedroom, 5-bath. There's so much going on in this house. It's such a unique property. It's a traditional 2-story, but they've done a major renovation to it. Cool fireplaces everywhere, exposed beams, a huge porch that runs all the way across the back of the property. I could go on and on. I won't go into it because you can't do that much on radio, but it's going to be on Wednesday coming soon. 24741 Southern Oak Circle. It's going to be $989,900, and it is worth every dollar. You believe me, you'll want to check this one out.
Wow. What's the address again?
24741 Southern Oak Circle in Lakeville, 2.5 acres.
Question came in, guys. Pros and cons of contract for deeds. Mike, pros and cons of contract for deeds. I can think of quite a few on both sides. Any thoughts there?
I mean, where do you start? I mean, there's a lot to cover with contract for deeds. Pros.
Maybe explain generally what people don't understand. Contract for deed, what is that?
Contract for deed. So basically, think of it as the seller almost being your bank, right? So you say, hey, seller, I'm gonna offer X amount of dollars for your house, but I want you to carry the financing. So I'm gonna put a down payment down with you right now, and then you can charge me a certain interest rate and set a payment schedule like that between us, where I make payments to you. And basically I have like a loan amount with you, which is the purchase price minus my down payment amount. and then I make payments on that. And typically there's an end term to that contract. Could be 2 years down the road, could be 5 years down the road, but you're going to have a balance with that seller that you have to pay them off in full at the end of that contract.
Yeah, I mean, my immediate thought that I tell people all the time, contract for deeds, they're awesome for the contract for deed guy. For me, if I'm
So
the
the
seller,
seller.
if I'm the seller, not so good for the buyer. And for anyone that's done a contract for deed, you typically do it because your credit scores, you have issues, you're not able to actually get a traditional loan. So I go and give Mike $100,000. I do a 2-year, meaning at the end of 2 years, I'm going to satisfy the sale. I'm going to get my own loan. In a contract for deed, if I can't do that at year 2, I forfeit my $100,000. A lot of times you can write things in, but typically that's the way it goes. If you're in that situation, rent, get your stuff squared away. There's really no advantage to it other than you can tell people, hey, I own this home, kinda. So I don't see a lot of value.
Yeah, it is. It can be really risky. Again, just be sure you have an agent helping you. If you're doing a contract for deed, there is an actual purchase agreement. There is an actual closing where part of your rights are recorded. In real estate school, they always talked about a bundle of sticks and ownership rights. When you purchase a property, when you buy a contract for deed, what happens is, let's say Scott's the seller. Scott has some of those sticks and I have some of those sticks as the buyer. And so you don't get the full bundle of sticks. And so again, to Scott's point, what can happen is if you don't get a loan, for example, with Mike at the end of the term, you lose all that down payment money. You're also paying generally a higher interest rate. So because the seller's financing you, they say, look, hey, I can go to Luminate Bank and make 4% on my money or whatever it is now. I'm going to charge you X amount. Usually it's higher than traditional interest rates as well. Now, we do work with people on contract for deeds, and there are rarer cases where it makes sense, but I like Scott's mindset. Save your money, rent, get everything together, and then look at buying traditionally, Mike.
Yep. You just got to know there's got to be an exit strategy there, and if you don't execute on that plan, on that exit strategy in the time frame required, you're going to lose your down payment money, and the house goes back to the seller.
Yeah,
Right.
and I always look at it as, everybody's got great intentions. You know what? I'm going to buy these clothes that are 3 inches shorter in the waist, and 6 months from now I'm going to fit into them. Well, if you can't fit into them in 6 months, you only lose those pants. If you do a contract deed for 2 years and say, yep, I have all my stuff squared away, here's $100,000, Mike, and I'll be able to do that end loan. And you went back and ate those cookies and you can't fit into those jeans. Now you actually lose your money and the house goes back to the seller.
Yeah, just understand again that contract for deed. It's important to recognize that, Scott. I think that's a really good way to explain it. And know there's a lot of sellers out there that's kind of their MO. It's like,
I've got clients that have made a ton of money doing
Yes.
this exact thing.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Sharks. There are sharks.
If there's
And I have
water,
another
there's sharks.
story. But Mike,
So it's if you're going to do a contract read, very important to have an agent who knows what they're doing with contract for deeds, right? So if you're the buyer, right, they can hopefully set it up to maybe protect you a little bit more in there. But you also have to be in contact with a good loan officer who says, okay, here's where you're at today on the loan side of things. Here's what you need to do to get in place, right? That loan officer has to be able to kind of quote unquote predict the future and know exactly where you're at now, what needs to be done so you can get a loan, because that's the ultimate fail is you work with the wrong loan officer. He says, this is what you got to do in order to get your loan. And you do those things and now you can't qualify still. Now your back's against the wall.
yeah, what I wanted to bring this up because I think from a consumer protection standpoint, if you're out there, I want to use this example too. This happened this past week. When you are losing a home in foreclosure, what happens is there ends up being what's called a sheriff sale. And in Minnesota, after that date of the sheriff sale, and usually the top bidder at the sheriff sale is the loan holder. Let's just say it's whoever, Luminate Bank. Luminate Bank, and the house sells for $100,000 at the sheriff sale. You now have 6 months as the owner to sell that property. Let's say it's worth $250,000 and redeem the sheriff's certificate and potentially profit on the sale of your home. Sometimes what happens and this was a case this week where a kind of an investor shark came in to this elderly individual and said, we're going to give you it was, a smaller amount above that sheriff sale amount. He thought, maybe this is a good idea, a good thing. Well, he's losing probably 40, 50 grand in equity. Had he called up a good real estate agent from one of the companies in the Twin Cities and just said, hey, let's list this on the MLS. And so it's important. Again, those types of things, it's unfortunate. That stuff, it's just disheartening a little bit. I know that everybody's trying to make a buck out there, but I don't know.
Yeah, one of the coolest real estate transactions, well, the coolest real estate transaction that I've ever been involved in, I wasn't involved in. So I didn't get paid on it. I represented nobody, but it's what you're talking about. It was in about 2008. And I got a call, I'll never forget, I got a call from a lady that was on Oliver Avenue North. I won't say the actual house address. And she had bought their home for $300,000. It's in foreclosure. They had been there, but they finally foreclosed. Now they've done the sheriff sale. And so I looked it up, and the sheriff sale was $18,000.
Oh, wow.
And so I called her and I said, do you have a friend or a coworker or an uncle, anybody that could give you $18,000 plus a few attorney's fees, and you can buy your home? So she had lived in that home without making a payment for 2 years.
Yeah.
They finally foreclosed on it. She did. She actually went to a cousin. They gave her the $18,000. So they went in and they bought it, and then she owned the property. And people are always like, well, what happened to the original price of $380,000? That goes away when that sheriff sale note is there. And that doesn't happen typically, but back then banks didn't want these houses back.
Yeah.
So they didn't. I mean, they were so overloaded, they just wanted them gone.
So that's a good way where you can redeem it actually as the owner.
Correct, as the
So
owner.
the owner. And so, yeah, just be aware. There's situations like that where again, the investors had another person reach out about, hey, we'll buy your home, no hassles, no showings. Was again a discounted price versus, you heard us, 6,000 plus homes on the market. Go on the market.
Yes.
And let everybody, all the agents from Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, Edina Realty, Remax, let all of us see it so we can write an offer.
Yeah, have you ever thrown have you ever seen those videos where you throw like little meat into a thing of piranha and everything boils and all the fish are crazy? That's the market right now.
Yeah.
There's 6,000 homes on it. As long as you're not goofy with your price and you are in a good area that's priced correctly, those piranhas are going to come and eat that meat quick.
It's a good description. This is the final break here at the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Before the break, had one other listing to touch on. This one's in Coon Rapids, 104th Lane Northwest in Coon Rapids for $350,000. This is a one owner, very well maintained split. It's in a great neighborhood. Alder Park is just steps away, and it's got a great deck overlooking the large fenced backyard. All the trees were professionally trimmed in 2023. Got a new hot water heater in 2018. Roof was new in 2017. Wonderful pride of ownership. The appliances have been meticulously maintained, Scott. Newer furnace, AC, and a 2.5 car garage as well. David's doing an open today, 11-1. David Meyer, 104th Lane Northwest in Coon Rapids for $350,000. Be sure to check that out. A very nice single family home. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Yeah, I don't know. It is interesting. The piranhas. The piranhas are out, and the Quest cookie is out.
That's right. Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, when you think of 6,000 homes on the market, where 19,000 is balanced, if you are priced correctly, marketed correctly, positioned correctly, that is kind of the best. It is. It's just like a group. The problem right now, because of interest rates, it's a smaller group of piranha. So
Sure.
it's like when you used to launch, you had 40 buyers and they just surrounded it.
Sure.
Now you still have them, but it's maybe 10. So you don't get 40 showings in 3 days. You get 8 to 9 showings in 3 days. And it still amounts to the same thing. It's going to sell in multiples with 6,000 homes on the market if it's correctly priced.
Yeah, it is an interesting time. We're seeing some stuff though too that's overpriced.
Oh, it'll sit.
Yeah, that is sitting. Getting lots of showings. That's always a red flag where, hey, we're getting a lot of showings, but why are we not getting an offer? It's always price. It is.
No, right, no, Ryan, it's not priced because nobody on my feedback, they all say, oh, appropriately priced, it's priced well, just didn't work for this person, so it's priced right. No, it's not.
Also known as
It's overpriced.
is overpriced.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, that's Minnesota overpriced.
Yeah.
Hey, everything's fine, everything's good. If you actually get feedback that says you're overpriced,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you're overpriced.
You're on another
Because
planet.
for a Minnesota agent to say, God, I really need to tell these people they're overpriced, they'll write it, but if you get 1 out of 5, you are definitely overpriced.
Yeah, it's a good question. I like that contract for deed question, and you think about that. Sellers, I'm not seeing a lot of them here now that I think the last few weeks or questions on it. I haven't seen a lot. Guys, have you seen much in that area?
I did most of mine back 2007 through like 2013. You know, where people were still having a problem getting financing. Interest rates weren't that great. You know, you couldn't get any money in the bank. So, you know, like, and again, there are situations like one buyer I had who was made a lot of money. But he was independent. He was an independent contractor.
Okay,
So he moved a lot of money through his checking account, but he didn't show a lot of income.
I see.
And so he wanted this house, and he had a $300,000 down payment. And I told my sellers, I'm like, look, he can cash you out in a year. And that was one of the rare times where I did think it was in my seller's best interest, because if it goes sideways, you take his $100,000, or I'm sorry, it's $300,000 down,
And you get the house
and
back.
you get the house back. So
Sell it
yeah,
to someone else.
yeah. And in the year he was able to do the end loan and it worked out. But
Question: Should sellers do open houses?
for what purpose?
I don't know. That's the question.
For informational purposes, what are people saying as they go through? What are people, as far as to sell your property? No, it has nothing to do with selling your property. But if you want to get,
Could it?
well, I mean,
Could have played fly.
yeah, I mean, could it be could somebody not own a computer?
Here we go.
You know,
We're going back live on air.
Could someone not own a
Welcome back to the final segment of the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Again, hope your weekend's going well. One last listing to touch on. This one's in this particular property is in Coon Rapids as well, 1412 98th Lane Northwest for $400,000. This is a 5-bed, 2-bath home. It's got 1,800 finished square feet throughout. Lots of great updates. The stove is new in 2024, microwave, dishwasher also in 2024. You got great hardwood floors on the main level, hallway and bedrooms, 6-panel doors throughout, a new driveway in 2022, water heater, softener, AC 2021, furnace, roof, irrigation system as well. And then the lower level, Scott, has a nice family room with a wood burning fireplace, 2 additional bedrooms too. Open house. David's going to be there today, Saturday, 2 to 4 o'clock, 1412 98th Lane Northwest in Coon Rapids for $400,000. Really nice, nice looking property, Scott. Yeah, great one indeed.
Yeah, we were asked off air, do open houses work?
And sell your house.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do open houses sell your house? And the answer to that is absolutely not. They don't. Open houses are really for I'll do an open house, for example, maybe at like week 3. If we're not getting any feedback, we're not getting a lot of showings, and you want to kind of get what people's thought is as they move through. But as far as selling the property, it has nothing to do with that. It's for agents to be able to pick up active buyers. So for an agent, it has
Can it sell your house?
Well, I mean, could somebody not own a computer and still go on a bug and carry ride and pull their horses up to your house?
So
Sure,
the reason
yes.
I say that is we, as a team, of course, we have had situations where someone comes into the property on a Saturday afternoon and says, hey, we love it. We want to make an offer. If they're not working with an agent. And I think to Scott's point, most buyers are working with a really good agent who has them set up on an MLS search. So they see it right away when it comes on the market. But there are rarer cases where that happens. We've had some of that, and it's another way to expose the property, in my opinion.
Oh, I used to do. I mean, me back in the day, I was 4 open houses every weekend back in 1999.
Yeah.
Because they were effective. People would come off signs. They had to come off of ads you put in the paper. They didn't have access to it. Now everybody has access to their own search. They might use MLS or Zillow or a number of sites. So yeah, could they see you online, come through the open house and decide to buy it? But did they run over your open house sign on the street corner? And that's how they saw the house? Probably not.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Hey, we had a comment. Mike Hilbert had this, and this is a really good one. He said something that agents and sellers need to keep in mind with appraisals. Appraisers also take into account seller contributions when running comparable sold properties and reduce the value by that amount. Sellers should also take this into account when pricing the home. Mike's a great agent on the Minnesota real estate team. Mike, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that happens, right? So it's an offer comes in at, $400,000. Hey, we'll give you $400,000 for your house, but we want you to kick back 15 grand to pay our closing costs.
Sold for $385.
That's a net price of $385. That house sold for $385.
Yeah, that's good that Mike sent that in, because if agents aren't doing this, when you're doing an analysis for your sellers and telling them what their home is worth, obviously you can see seller concessions on every house that's sold. So when you're doing your pluses and minuses, if the seller in this case was 400, paid 15,000, that's a negative or a plus to your subject property, because that's not what it sold for. It sold for 385 grand.
This is going to come into play with people who bought new construction over the last couple of years that will eventually sell those new construction homes. There's a lot of interest rate buy downs going on. So, and there's a lot of times big money in that, right? So it's like, hey, it's $750,000 new construction house. There's 35 grand, in seller concessions, and that 35,000 was used to buy their interest rate down. So you're going to get a lot of adjustments coming on those types of properties, because that's what we're seeing a lot on the new construction side.
Yeah, on the other side of it, when you're doing a house, when somebody let's say somebody bought a house 2 years ago, and they say, well, we bought the house for 400 grand, and what Mike's saying is, then you find that there's $20,000 in concessions in there. You didn't buy it for 400. So if it's sold for 400 now, you made $20,000. Try to tell that somebody has a sale price of 400. It does not compute.
Yeah.
No, you paid 400 for it. No, you paid 80 for it, because there were 20 seller concessions. Now you sold it for 400, so you sold it for 20 grand more. Well, it doesn't feel like that.
And just so everybody understands that, again, what that means, instead of paying your closing costs out of your pocket at closing and bringing the cash to closing, you're paying a higher price for the property, and then the seller, the way it shows on this closing statement or the ALTA, is it shows that 20,000 is being paid by the seller. In reality, you're paying a higher price. So, Mike, that new construction thing is a good thing to be aware of. Yeah, because again, with
They're coming around.
interest rate buy downs, I've seen a lot of that. But it isn't that there's a max. People can bump into that.
There is. I mean, you can go up to 6%. So on a conventional loan, if you have less than 10% down, 3% of the purchase price is the max the seller can give back to the buyer. 10% to 24.99% down at 6% of the purchase price.
Wow.
25% or more, you can do 9%, right? A lot of builders out there are doing 6%. Do a conventional loan with 10% down, I can give you 6 points. Well, on the $700,000 house, those 6 points, that's 42 grand.
That's right.
So
Yeah, guys, we're in the final minute and a half. Scott, thoughts for folks in this heading into the spring market, the warming market?
No, I mean, it's kind of what we've been talking about, and people I don't think are buying it or listening, because it hasn't jumped off like I thought it should be. But if you are a buyer, right now is when you want to buy, because if rates go down, and I'm not talking about the next 6 months, I'm talking about the next year and a half, 2 years. You are buying a house at the value that the property's at. We've only been moving about 3 to 4% a year. And so you're buying a house that's what it's worth right now. And so, yeah, your payment will be a little bit higher for maybe a year or 6 months or 9 months or whenever it drops. But if you're paying 500 for it, it's too long to go into that, but just go out there right now and look. And if you are in the market to buy, it's a good time to buy.
Mike,
Watch
last
the rate.
thoughts for folks?
same thing. So if you're saying to myself, I can buy now or I can wait a year or 2 years to buy, you will certainly pay more for that house a year from now.
Correct.
Or 2 years from now. So to Scott's point, if you're in that position, definitely just check it out. You're better off buying now. If the time's not right, it's not right.
Want to extend my condolences, my oldest brother, Dan, Dan's wife, Janice Leifgren. Janice's mother passed away, Mary Leifgren. We're thinking of you and sending lots of love and prayers to the whole family. The funeral here is today. Thank you again for everyone for listening. Enjoy the weekend. Take care. Thanks everybody online for joining us. A fun show, lots of good questions. Appreciate you as always, Scott, throwing the headphones away there. What's going on over there?
Sorry about that.
Mike, Scott, good job, bud.
Yeah, good show. Thanks, guys.
Mike, do you have an extra Quest cookie for me?
No, I don't. Sorry. Next week I'll bring you one around.
Big thanks to Josh in studio as well for his help as always. We appreciate him. His great work. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll see you soon. Take care.